Thank you, Sandra. Before I get started with the tracker, let me just introduce myself. My name is Paul Brunngraeber. I've been teaching school since 2009, and before starting at ISMI in March of 21, I had both coached and taught in urban and rural school districts. But since starting at ISMI, I've loved every single moment of it, and yeah, it's been great. So as far as the tracker goes, as a teacher, there's been nothing worse in my career than having some sort of tracker, some sort of data piece, or whatever it may be, professional development that was or is pointless, or what I feel is pointless, or I'm just not getting anything out of it. As far as the DDI tracker goes, that's simply not the case. Uh, I've really thoroughly enjoyed using the tracker to organize my thoughts, my team to organize their thoughts. Speaking of teams, I guess I should say also that I'm a part of the math team. I'm the math lead, and I also teach Algebra 2. So when I'm really doing this, I'll put that at the beginning as well. But this, as far as timing goes, this will work too. And so for my team, it drives our discussions that we have during our DDI meetings. It forces us to look deeper into the data and really look through it with a fine-tooth comb and try to figure out some patterns and things like that. And I'll go a little bit deeper into the tracker in a second here. But I really feel like it has held us accountable as teachers to do the dirty work of looking through the data and figuring out what do our students truly need. And I think number one, that's the most important thing, is always focusing on what our students need. Instead of just looking at it as another hoop to jump through or a box to check, this tracker really is giving us the tools needed to improve our instruction. So with that being said, a couple of things that I've really enjoyed the most is first and foremost the bottom one, the bottom thing on the very bottom of our tracker. It talks about how many students are failing just our class. I think that is extremely important to look at, because when we're looking at students, if we can pinpoint those kids that are doing work in other classes, but they're still just failing ours, it gives us a closer focus of students that we really truly can reach. Um, and that's a great starting point when we're trying to, figure out, okay, who do we really need to get a hold of? Who do we need to work with on those one-on-one targeted sessions? And with putting that on the tracker, it forces us to actually look at that. And I know that in some ways it's eye-opening, because you're like, wow, I can't believe this kid is failing. But really, when you have so many students, sometimes it's easy to miss those students as you're going throughout your day. At the same time, one thing that happened last year with a few of us is we may have not had any students that were failing just our course. So one way that I took that tracker was I looked at that and said, okay, what about the kids who are passing my course but failing one other course? So then what I did is I said, okay, well, I already have a good relationship with these kids. They're passing my course, they're doing what they need to do in my course. What if I reached out to them and said, hey, I know you're doing okay in my course, but maybe you're failing this ELA course, or you're failing this social studies course, and I can work with you to get that grade up as well. And I had some quite a bit of success with that, um, and that is all coming from this tracker and being able to look at the data and say, okay, what can I do with this? Here's the data. What can I do with it? And that's what kind of drove a lot of the discussions we had in our DDI meetings. The other part of the tracker that I've really grown to like too is looking at the number of kids that have demonstrated mastery. And with us progressing towards standards-based grading and standards-based teaching, um, looking at this number of students, or the percentage of students that have shown mastery, is what it's all about. And I think as teachers, it's so easy for us to get caught up in, we have to go, go, go. We don't have enough time in the year. We have to teach, teach, teach. But the tracker slows us down, and we look at it and say, okay, I only had 44% of my students show mastery of this standard. I need to stop, pause, reevaluate what I'm doing as a teacher, and reassess them after I have already maybe retaught something or grabbed them into a breakout session or grabbed them into an intervention session and say, okay, now is the mastery at? And not moving on until that number gets to what we want. Lastly, and it's probably the thing that's closest to my heart, is the relationships we build and the engagement we have in class. Those two aspects of the tracker for me have been really fun to look at because, I think we always know when things go well, or we know when we're really having an engaged session, or we know when we've built a relationship that's, strong. But the part that I like about the tracker is that we all now can take those snips and we can share those with our team, and maybe something that really, really worked well, and we can share that out in this tracker so other teachers can maybe learn something new and we can learn something new from each other. So that is just the handful of things that I love about the tracker. And I look forward to using it more as we progress into standards-based teaching into this new school year.